Let's light up the screen. In a world of simulators, you'll reign as the king. From planet coaster thrills to the stormy fight, you're my favorite gamer.
Hello there, and welcome to the resurrection of the gaming news. Yep, I've resurrected the gaming news because it felt apt, because a lot has happened recently. Like, quite a bit's happened recently. Some of it UK centred, some of it meaning a lot for everyone. And we're going to get straight on in to the fact that Stream Elements now has some new owners. Yep. Now, it was... I can't remember what it was. I think it was 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. Something like that. Stream Elements put out that they were actively looking for a buyer, and if they couldn't find one, their services would be shut down if they couldn't find a buyer. Stream Elements have now managed to find a buyer, as Stream Elements is now owned by the tech company that you could go ahead and buy tech products from, Razer. Yep, Stream Elements is now officially owned by Razer. This news came out, I think, this news came out like 5 days ago. They posted a tweet saying they're excited to welcome Razer. And Razer posted saying they're excited to be working with Stream Elements. So when they said they were actively shipping you for a buyer, as it turns out, their buyer ended up being Razer, and Razer bought out Stream Elements. They are now officially owned by Razer, and apparently, according to Stream Elements when they talked about it, there are going to be new changes coming to the platform, but everything that used to be free will remain free. So SE.live is still going to be a free download. Their alerts thing is still going to be free. Chatbots and stuff still going to be free. Everything that is currently free on Stream Elements will remain free, but there is apparently some exciting new things coming. What they are, I don't know, but apparently there's some exciting new things coming. But they did explicitly say that the main thing is all the stuff that was previously free will still be free. That will not be changing. Which I think is good, because to be honest, I don't think it would go down very well if all of a sudden they started charging you to download SE.live, a plugin, which is basically just a plugin for OBS. I don't think that would have gone down well. And on the subject of new owners, EA officially has new owners, as yesterday the news became 100% official. The sale was a done deal, and it was finalized yesterday. The sale to make EA a private company officially went through, and EA is now officially owned by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund and partners of Jared Kushner. The sale that was first initially announced last year, there was then a little petition signature thing going around to try and sign to block the sale, which had like, I think, I mean, clearly it did nothing. Clearly it didn't do much, because it became reality, but I swear that petition had like well over 10 million signatures. I don't even think it was. I think that was just exclusively here in the UK as well. It was like a UK signature thing, but there was probably some in other countries as well, and a lot of prominent YouTubers ended up talking about it. Like Lil Simsy made a video saying we need to stop this sale, but yeah, there was a UK signature going around, and I think it had like 10 million signatures, which 10 million signatures just for the UK is mad. That's crazy. That's crazy. For one country, it's crazy. But yeah, it is now official that EA is owned by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund and partners of Jared Kushner. And I think it was like a mere 20 minutes after the news came out that the sale was official, news also then started circulating that EA are looking at mass layoffs, that's a sad thing to see people lose their jobs. Let alone the people losing their jobs over this. That's sad. But also the sale, the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, kind of scares me for certain things. Like, where does this leave EA? Like, what changes are going to happen? Especially when it comes to games like The Sims. Like, look at The Sims 4 right now in its current state and how much you can do. And I don't just mean how much you can do in terms of building or whatever, like interactions you can have, like relationship things you can have. Like the amount of equality in that game. A lot of that stuff, that's equality stuff, is stuff that's not allowed in Saudi Arabia. Like, let's say I'm to resurrect the Sims 4 Dreamhouse, which I am considering. I know it's been a while since I did that, but honestly, I was kind of, when the idea of you may have noticed, the series just stopped, but honestly, I kind of stopped making it because I got burnt out with The Sims. And then I was like, I resurrected it and I made an intro for it and I resurrected it. And I then started the second series and had an intro for that. But then it just kind of stopped. I'd stopped making it. And that was literally a few days after the announcement, the sale was a possibility. They were going to possibly sell to Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. And I was like, goodbye. No, that's it. And I didn't even look at the game anymore. I actually haven't looked. I barely looked at EA games since then. And going forward, I might go back to, I don't know what I'm going to do going forward, but like, I did have one or two ideas for what I could have done. Because if you remember, when I started to end off, when we were ending off The Sims, I was kind of maybe, what I was leaning towards having the latest kid that we had in the Dreamhouse series, Evie, be lesbian. Because, well, The Sims allows me to do that, but of course the thing is, such thing in Saudi Arabia isn't actually legal. You can't actually do that in Saudi Arabia. So I think the thing that scares me the most is because I think it's like, from what I remember reading, it's like 95% owned by the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. So like, because it's 95% owned by them, are they going to start to make changes to take things like that away from Sims 4? But even if they don't take it away from The Sims 4, if whatever the next Sims game is, it was just called Project Renee, are they going to start taking it out of that game? Like, is that game going to have less equality features? Is it just going to be guy, girl, they date, that's it? Like, the whole idea of a Saudi Arabian public investment fund owning EA scares me. But it's not just EA that they own. There are a few other things that they own as well now with this sale. They will also now own, which I've seen literally nobody talking about. I've seen nobody talking about it. All I've ever seen is everybody saying that they now own EA. But they also own the stuff that EA has bought. Because if you remember quite a little while ago, EA bought Codemasters, the folks behind the F1 game. So it also does mean that Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund also owns Codemasters. They own Codemasters, they own Maxis, the folks behind The Sims. So it's like, it's not just EA they own quite a bit more than that. And the whole idea of this completely just scares me. Like, I am scared for what the future of this company could be. Like, I know that the F127, F127's next year. And they've had FC stuff coming out this year, and of course they've announced stuff like the grounds and stuff. But I think the thing was, with that one, FC27, they can, I think that one's pretty much safe, because that one was exclusively, I think, worked on by EA, because the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund didn't officially own it, so they couldn't influence that game. So, like, they couldn't influence that game. But from next year, they can. F127, I think they can influence that one quite a bit. I mean, the F126 DLC, I know it was a bit weird to just have it as a DLC, but I think that was probably the best decision to do. Yes, it's weird to have it as a have a DLC for the biggest reg change in F1 history, but also I think it was better to just basically just do that, so that you can completely overhaul the game for next year. So like, ultimately I think that was a better decision anyway, as opposed to just wasting the resources creating a brand new game this year that maybe doesn't have many changes, but then just take a year off, bring the game out next year and completely overhaul it. But the problem I've got is, like, what does this mean for, things like that? Like F127, like, are the Saudis gonna really get their fingers in it? Are they gonna start coming in and going, we want you to do this, we want you to do this, make this, add this? Are they going to be this, like, really prominent force? Like, maybe not. Maybe they just sit there. Maybe they do nothing. Maybe they just sit there and do absolutely nothing. But the problem I've got is, I think, is like, are you going to be a completely prominent source? Are you going to get your fingers involved? Will they try and get themselves involved in how EA makes a game? And are they going to start telling EA what they want in these games? Like, honestly, the future of EA under the Saudis and what they could be doing scares me. Literally, it scares me. It really, really does. But as a final piece of news I want to talk about was something that I think has been coming for a little while. And that is the fact that Game has gone into administration. The retail store that has stores here in the UK, but also in Spain, However, when I said it went to administration, they have gone into administration in the UK only. The Spanish side of things are still running dang smooth. They're running smoothly over there. And I think this was something that a lot of people had seen for a while. Because, I can't remember when it was back in 2018 or 2019. Game got bought out by the Fraser Group, who owns House of Fraser and Sports Direct. And since then, since Game got bought out, there was changes happening. You had the stopping of pre-owned. They just didn't do pre-owned anymore. You'd walk into a physical game store and the amount of games on the shelf became less and less and less. Then became as a closing of physical stores. The image you're actually seeing for me talk about this new story was my old local game store. My local game store now is 4 shelves buried in the back of a Sports Direct store next door to the fire exit, which you would never find unless you're intensely looking for it. And that's such a saddened thing. Like, really, really is. Like, even before Game closed down, I remember walking in there one day. Because there was I'd seen that my local store was closing down, and I thought, they're closing down. I'm in Perth, I'll go in and have a look and see what they're doing. There was barely any shelf. There was 4 or 5 shelves of games right at the very front of the store. And every single other shelf in the store was just cat. It was plushes, pop vinyl figures, board games. There were Pokemon cards, there was Magic the Gathering cards. There was Lego. I'd walked into a store called Game and there was barely a single game. Which was just, And even, it was back in 2022, I remember I was in Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix weekend. And I walked past the game store in Barcelona and I just walked in out of curiosity's sake. And this is not even a joke. I don't know what those stores are like now, because I haven't been in one. But this is not a joke. But when I walked into that store, it was literally like walking into a CEX store. Because just the only difference that I saw was there was brand new games in the store, where CEX is just 100% pre-owned. When I walked into that store, there was pre-owned games. You could go in, you could trade in your games. There was brand new games, obviously. Obviously, there was brand new games that you could buy just out. But the main thing was, there was pre-owned. There wasn't many of them. It was a small amount of them. But I could buy PS2 games. Now, yeah, admittedly, it wasn't many PS2 games. But the fact is, I could still buy those PS2 games. Game here in the UK, you could barely buy a single game of anything. I was confused. I was lost. I was like, huh? It was like, what is this? Why can I do this here, but not here? And turns out the Fraser Group doesn't own the game in Spain. It's owned by someone else. I can't remember who owns it, but it's someone else. But it was so crazy to me Like, Game in Spain was like walking into a CEX store, just with the addition of being able to get a brand new game or pre-order something. It was like the game store in Spain, or in Barcelona, was like, it's a CEX store with brand new and pre-orders. Like, I could not wrap my head around it. Like, especially the whole thought of there being PS2 games in there. I think there was even GameCube games in there. Which is just like, what? It's like, what? I could not wrap my head around it. I was confuzzled by the difference of, like, the same store, same name, same branding, same everything, but how different that store was in comparison to the UK store. And also, the amount of games on their shelves was wild. I mean, obviously, I've not been in one since 2022, since I was in Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix back then. But, like, it was wild. Like, their shelves were full of games. It was none of like this walking to a UK game store and going, where are the video games? Like, you'd walk into a game in the UK and go, where's the video games? Granted, I don't know what it looks like now, because this is 2022 I'm talking about. But even back then, I'd walk into a game store in the UK and go, where are the video games? Walked into that store in Spain and I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? This place is full of games. I'm talking full. And it wasn't even just like saying, oh look, it's Xbox, PlayStation and Switch. You know, what it would be, I mean, at the time it was like Xbox, PlayStation, Switch. Now it'll be Xbox, PlayStation and Switch too. But like, it wasn't even just like, oh, it's just the latest consoles. No, you were going in there and you were buying, like, you could go in there and buy DS games, Wii games, PS2 games, GameCube games. It was like walking into a CEX with a few changes, obviously. And though it was like walking into a CEX with changes. And the only real changes were some of the games were brand new as opposed to pre-owned. And you could pre-order things. Which is just like, huh? It's just mad how different it was. How different it was and how different things were. And how different, differently both of company, both things with the same name were working. Because Game UK announced, Game here in the UK announced they were stopping pre-owned. Game in Spain did not ever say they were doing that. Game here in the UK announced that they were closing physical stores to start putting them in Sports Direct stores. Game Spain announced they were opening more stores. It's like the complete opposite of what was going on here in the UK. It was just... Game used to be a great store to go into. But it was always one of those places whenever I was like, I'm in Perth, I'll go in and have a look and see what I can find. I genuinely, this is one final thing I want to mention before I leave on this video. I remember doing a thing. I remember I can't remember what I was there for. It was a while ago now. I actually think it might have been might have been the beginning of 2020. When the world was still normal. I mean, obviously, 2020 was also the the time when the world became unnormal. But I think it was the beginning of 2020. I was like, you know what? I'm in Perth. I'll go have a looking game and see what I can get. And this is a genuine thing. This is a genuine thing. Genuine thing. I walked in just to have a look and see what they had available for purchasing. Pre-owned, because I could still do that back then. I genuinely remember getting the Reignited Trilogy of Spyro for the Switch. For I think it was like £5. It was like 40 quid cheaper than its normal price, because it had on it, it says was 45, now £5. So like, I got the Reignited Trilogy of Spyro for a £5. Like the Switch version of the Spyro Reignited Trilogy for a £5. Which I loved. And when I went on holiday to Japan the first time, I genuinely sat on the plane and I completed all 3 games to 100% completion. But like something as simple as that, going in there, getting that game, which is technically 3 games, for a £5, was an amazing bargain, an amazing deal. I loved that. And the only reason I even went in was because I was in Perth anyway. I was like, I'll go have a look. But then, they stopped the pre-owned and they stopped stocking less games, and it kind of became this point of like, I'm in Perth, but I don't care. I'm not even going to bother looking. If I want a game, I'll go to CEX instead, see what they're offering. Like, it kind of became a point of like, I just stopped going because there was no reason for me to go. It was like, if there wasn't a brand new game out that I wanted at the time, I just wouldn't walk in. And that, it's a sad thing. Because that was genuinely something I used to do. I just would be like, well, I'm here. I'll walk in and have a look. But then when they stopped the pre-owned, it kind of became a point of me for like, well, unless there's a brand new game out that I know I want, what need do I have to walk in here? But then also, the thing is as well, like if there is a brand new game out that I know I want, like, what's the point in me going out all the way down to my local game store just to buy it? Because it's not like saying, oh, I can buy the brand new game that I wanted, plus maybe get some good pre-owned bargain deals. Because when they stopped doing that, it was like, well, they're not doing pre-owned anymore, so why should I go there just to get the new game that I want, when I could just buy it online? I mean, if I still had pre-owned, I could go down and actually genuinely look at stuff and buy the game I wanted plus others. But when they stopped pre-owned, it just became pointless to me. It really, really